Alright, hello everybody. So this is going to be video lesson number 1, and this is for chapter 5, the evolution of biodiversity. So in the opening case study for chapter 5, it's on page 151. If you haven't read it yet, it's actually quite interesting. On page 151, they talk about some research studies that they did in 2017. And what they did was they analyzed some locations around the Earth, 600,000 to be exact. And these locations around the Earth were like different ecosystems around the Earth. And what they were looking at and what they were trying to answer was, is there any benefit that we get from biodiversity? Because if we know that there are benefits for us as humans, as far as like services and resources that we can get from biodiversity, it would then provide evidence that we should protect biodiversity. It would provide a reason to protect biodiversity. So the question they were looking at in this study was looking at areas that are highly biodiverse, and they were comparing that to areas that have less biodiversity. Okay? And they were questioning, do these provide the same services to humans? Okay? Do they provide the same benefits? Okay? And they collected data during this study, because you always have to have data to support any claim, right? We learned that with our first little research project that we did with the Alka-Seltzer tablets. So whenever you claim something, like let's say we're claiming we need to protect biodiversity, well, we need to have data to support the reason why we should protect biodiversity. So, what did they find? What did they find with that data? Okay, now that's what we're going to talk about now. So what they found was that with higher biodiversity, they found some trends. They found that there was an increase in productivity. They found that these ecosystems that were biodiverse, highly biodiverse, had greater resilience. That means that if there were some type of environmental change, whether that be a natural disaster, maybe human impact, they found that they had resilience to that change, meaning that they could survive through that setback. They found that these ecosystems were also more stable. They found that there was greater genetic variation. If you were to look at all of the genes, or you may recall from biology, all of the alleles in a population for a species, they found that there was a greater variation of those genes or alleles. And then what that ensures, so that then ensures that some of the individuals of a species in a population would be able to survive and recover from change. Okay? So that's huge, because we're going to be learning in this chapter that there are lots of changes that have happened over evolutionary time on the planet, but those changes that have occurred in the past were over very long periods of time, millions of years, tens of thousands of years. The changes that we are experiencing today are happening rapidly. Okay, so we're not talking tens of thousands of years. We're talking within years. Okay, so it's like in the past 100 years, even in a day, there could be rapid environmental change, like clear cutting a forest. And how does that change impact the biodiversity? So what we are finding, and what they found, that it is very clear that we need to protect these biodiverse areas. Sometimes they refer to them as hotspots around the planet. And these are areas that have very, very high genetic and species biodiversity and even ecosystem diversity. So how can we do that? How can we protect? And then we need to know why. Why is that so important? Well, the how and the why. So how can we do this, and why should we do this? Always, always, always the how is through education, which is what we're doing right now, right? You are getting educated about biodiversity, and you are being provided with opportunities. For example, for us, we will have our AP We Service project, right? And you guys should see in your AP classroom, I actually been meaning to ask you this, that you have like that checked off, that you are a member of the AP with We Service project through the College Board. And what this does, you guys, is it not only benefits you, because you will be getting a service learning credential. It's like an extra certificate with your AP score like poster that you'll get from the College Board. But this is like a super awesome opportunity to enhance your resume, to enhance your transcript here at school. It actually is something you might want to write about this year. And so just to let you know that, and we'll get into that even more, and I'll share with you the opportunities you guys have with that. But the way we're doing that is we're going to be increasing biodiversity on our campus. So what we can do is we can do an environmental impact statement for our campus and measure the species on our campus, the richness and the evenness. We could do a Shannon index on it, and then after we do our project where you guys will be planting like native plants and whatever and restoring biodiversity, we'll do another study, another inventory of species evenness and richness and the Shannon index, just like we did with the parking lots last week. So that'll be really cool, because then we could apply what we've learned in a real setting. And now we need to think, well, why, right? Why would we do this? So we would do this because there's definitely benefits to humans. There are medicines we don't even know that are out there, and you may have heard of this as a reason to protect like rainforests. That there are medicines that possibly that we haven't even discovered yet. There might be proteins in a particular fungi in the middle of Ecuador that we don't know about, and maybe those proteins are the proteins that we need for a vaccination for some deadly viral disease, right? So there's all these opportunities there to explore that, but we need to protect it to be able to get to it. We also, another why is that nature is actually pretty cool. It's a recreational area. It provides opportunities for people to like kind of renew themselves socially, emotionally. There's also economic benefits. Whenever you hear the word economic, just think money. These economic benefits in nature. They provide natural capital, and natural capital is linked with economic benefits. So things like lumber, you know, we use lumber. It's actually on back order right now during COVID. I do know, like, it's a perfect example of why we should protect it is because people need this as a resource. And an example of this is like one of our friends who ordered a new fence for their yard. They ordered it in June, and the company said there's no way we're going to get this done this summer. It's going to be more like 6 months from now because of like the backlog of lumber. And so, you know, you think about the production of lumber, where it grows. Is the lumber company clear cutting, or are they selectively cutting trees? You know, there's all these scenarios. And so then you want to make sure in this class, like, because you are getting educated, that lumber is actually from a sustainable forestry company, right? And so that all goes with education. And so then if you only buy sustainably harvested lumber, then that drives that market up, higher demand, and that all comes back to money. So it's kind of like all connected. Another thing too, and some of you had an FRQ about this, a free response question, is like the services that that nature provides. And some of these services include pollination. Okay, if we didn't have pollinators, we would not actually have food, quite honestly. If you've ever seen the Bee movie, that's a good old classic movie about bees and how much they provide us as far as their services regarding pollination. Remember, agriculture is our #1 industry in the United States, so agriculture is dependent on pollination. And so we need to make sure that our plants get pollinated so that they reproduce and produce seeds, and then we can use those seeds for further growing seasons, and there's just all kinds of things there. Also, water purification. Another service that nature provides is water purification. And we know that through wetlands, and some of you had a free response question about that and how wetlands purify water, right? They not only absorb water, but they also slow it down too, so then they reduce erosion, right? So there's just all kinds of like things that nature does that we benefit from, and maybe we've never thought of it before, okay? So there's lots of whys as to why we should protect, okay? And the hows, again, to revisit that, education is key. You guys are going to get an opportunity this year to actually be educated on how we should protect it, and then the why. We're going to be adding pollinator gardens, right? We're going to be actually improving our retention basin wetland by increasing biodiversity of native plants. And also another how that I just thought of is simply legislation. Okay, so these might be laws that are passed not only here in the U.S. but in other countries. There could also be treaties. There's all different kinds of treaties that different countries can sign and promise that they would, you know, protect certain areas in their country, maybe that are a hot spot, that are full of biodiversity. Okay, so this video #1 for chapter 5, is actually not on any particular sketch note. You could probably pull some of these things and put it into the sketch notes in various locations, but this is just kind of like an intro. Okay, so as far as where you put these notes, I would actually put them maybe on the cover of your sketch notes like I did here. Okay, so these are mine, and you know, if you need to like look at mine, you can like reference them for all future video lessons. Okay, so we are done with the intro of chapter 5.